Yo, I'm coming from that 3-6, so that's why I got them brains spinning. Ain't nobody using blinkers, we ain't good at lane switching. Better get a plane ticket, I ain't flying all you chickens though. Always shoot my shot, better switching off the pick and roll, dishing off the give and go. All my squad is driven, so you can catch us on the road. Promise we ain't doing shows, so that means
Rip City, are you listening? I'm Christian Gamalian. I'm talking with co-host Austin Caphammer, and this is the Peeps and Plaid podcast. Today we have my good friend Matt Eldredge as a guest. I wasn't really an NBA fan when I first met Matt, and he really got me to be a huge Blazers fan and a fan of basketball altogether. So he's been a Blazers fan since the 90s, and the Blazers are always our go-to topic of conversation when we meet up. So Matt, I'm glad you were able to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Christian. Austin, it's good to see you again too.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man.
Totally.
Stoked, dude. So first things first, obviously I'm sure everyone's heard by now, people around the globe are mourning. Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 other people passed away in a helicopter crash this last Sunday. We're all devastated. No matter what happens on the basketball court, what team he plays for, everyone respected Kobe. He was a top 10 player all time. I recently excluded him from the 2010s decade team, but he really defined the 2000s. He was probably the MVP of that decade. His smile, his dunks, his championships, his work ethic, his relentlessness on offense and defense. Kobe really took the torch from Michael Jordan in leading the league in the eyes of the world. So there's nothing I can say to add that hasn't already been said. I'm sure we've all been following this really closely. We all feel for the Bryant family and the families of all those involved in the horrific crash. I'm praying that good can come from this, that his wife and daughters can be comforted by the NBA community and beyond, that clearly has immeasurable love for them. And yeah, we'll get into recent events of Blazer basketball, but first I just want to take this opportunity with Matt here. Austin and I, we haven't really been fans for, more than a decade, whereas you've been following since the 90s, so maybe you have a little bit of perspective in Kobe's prime and after that 2000 Western Conference Finals when they beat the Blazers. So yeah, I was just wondering, how has your respect for Kobe just kind of transformed over the years?
Yeah, it's nuts because with Kobe, he always killed us. Like, no matter what game it was, Kobe always killed us. And so he was probably my most hated NBA player of all time for the longest time. Yeah. And then the Lakers got bad, right? Yeah. So there's those couple seasons after their championship team split up, Pau Gasol was gone, all of that. And then it was during that time that my respect for Kobe grew even more because as he started to age too, he still played just as hard as he had his entire career. I'll never forget though a couple moments with him. One is just the times when the Blazers fans and sometimes the players would have this whole like Kobe stopper thing. It was all about who's our Kobe stopper, because since we were in the same division, same conference, we knew we were always going to be coming against the Lakers at some time in the playoffs. And so Ruben Patterson was like the first Kobe stopper, but he was self-appointed the Kobe stopper. I don't think anyone called him that first. I'm pretty sure he called himself that. And then he probably had a couple good games defensively against Kobe where he got in his head. But there was one game, and I looked it up today. I believe it was to see who regular season, who was going to be the top of the division, us or the Lakers. And it's that team with Scotty and Bonzi, Zach, Ruben Patterson, all those guys. And Ruben's on Kobe. I don't know how he's been doing against him up to this point, but it's the end of regulation. They're down by 3. Ruben's guarding Kobe, ball's inbounded. He's at the top of the three-point line, probably a good 3-4 feet behind it. Ruben's just all up in his grill. And Kobe somehow, through pivoting, steps through, drains the 3 on him. And then in second overtime, too, he ends up hitting the game-winning 3 that's even tougher than that. And it was those moments where you're like, I hate you so much. And that is unbelievable. How can someone do – and I just remember Kobe hitting – big shot after big shot against us. And then when we went against them in those Western Conference Finals too, that always is the worst with Shaq, 2 hands up in the air after the alley. I still get sick watching that. But Kobe was just like that player that you hated for the long time, and then you loved to hate him as he went on. And in his later seasons in the NBA, it was just amazing to see him just as committed, tearing his Achilles, going to the free throw line, still sinking 2 free throws, and then him mentor players too. Like, that's been one of the things after his death that's really blown me away, is how many people had Kobe's phone number and like would regularly either text him or get together, and that he's doing that with people's kids too.
Yeah.
And like, that's just the kind of thing where the dude like loves the game, and my guess is loves people that much to want to like pour into them in those ways, to pass on that level of competition to the next generation.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was actually just thinking that earlier today, Matt, because I think Kyle Kuzma had a post and, discussed how, obviously, growing up, he was a big role model for him. And then they had ultimately, once he was brought onto the Lakers, had a private dinner or something. Huh. And you made the point of like, how does he have that kind of time? How did he have that kind of time? And it was crazy, because it wasn't like he shot me a text, right? Like, these were pretty personal gatherings that he made a point to be a part of. So yeah, it's like a storybook hero. Yeah, it's totally crazy. It's crazy. It makes no sense. But yeah, I'm sorry to butt in there, but what did you see? Something I was thinking I wanted to ask you going into this. What was the general, aside from him being a villain, because that is a huge portion of like his identity to us as Portland fans, but like what around the league, what was it like watching him at that time? Did people necessarily talk about how hard he worked even when he was in the midst of it?
Yeah, I think it started more with just how much of a freak athlete he was, right? Okay. Like that's where he first started getting the Jordan comparisons is, he would stick the tongue out too and stuff like that when he would dunk. I remember that. And we hated that. It's like, no, only Michael Jordan does that, Kobe. You copied him. Yeah. But, I was only like in elementary school or something like that at that time. Yeah. And later you recognize he's doing that because of how much film he's watched of Jordan, right? Yeah. And so then it was like freak athleticism, which he still had. Underrated dunker in our league. That dude was one of the better in-game dunkers, I think, of just his up and under dunks, all that kind of stuff. But I think as the time went on, and especially when Shaq left, and then he won 2 more championships, right? He won 2 more after Shaq was gone. That was pretty crazy, because it was like, okay, you only won because of this. And for him to carry that team, and really carry that team in a lot of ways. Pau Gasol was really good then too. It was just nuts to see him keep winning, even with all the changes going on around him. He was the constant for the Lakers association, and you just saw that he was just so committed. And you'd hear stories, right, of like they'd lose a game, Kobe stays till like 3-4 in the morning to get 1,000 shots in, and then is showing up first to the gym for practice the next day. And that was, as like a middle school dude, you're like, I'm gonna do the same thing. Right? You think about trying to get 1,000 shots in or whatever, and you do the first 30, and you're like, I'm done, right?
My arms are jelly.
So 2 points that came up just in hearing you say that, Matt. The first is, I think I heard Coach Jim Boeheim when he was discussing Kobe's presence on the Olympic team. He had just basically, and that guy, Jim Boeheim's like an institution in college basketball. And so like he's seen some things, and I'm sure a decent portion of his players have even gone onto the league. And even he, when he was being interviewed the other day, had just said, basically Kobe came into the Olympic team and set everybody straight. Was like, this is what we're doing. This is the brand of basketball we're playing. And then Jim Boeheim said he was just in awe. He was just in awe. Like, and whenever he went back to coach his college kids after that, and they were like, I'm like, almost like you two were just saying, I'm going to put in that work. I'm going to do that. Yeah. You don't have a clue what excellence. Can't. Yes. Yeah. Looks like. So yeah, I mean, I kind of got hung up on that and forgot what else I was going to say, but yeah, I mean, it's just really tragic, and not to be the downer and point out some of the, hindsight is always 20/20, but I don't know if you two had read about how there wasn't a TAWS system in this helicopter. So
I just heard about that a little bit ago. Yes.
So there, and that's the first thing I said to my girlfriend. I said, it's 2020, especially with like a highly regulated industry. The FAA, you'd imagine, would be like pretty strict at this point. I mean, Boeing is obviously having a lot of issues and whatnot. This TAWS system was recommended to be standardized when there was another crash in the Gulf in 2004. And it wasn't capitalized on. It wasn't, and I bet it will be now. I also discussed with Christian and a couple other people the role of it being a private or chartered flight. I wonder how much that fed into whether, like, basically them being permitted to fly, because we've obviously all heard about the fog warnings and the grounded other helicopters. Yeah. And then last but not least, there was no black box in it.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
That's nuts.
Isn't that amazing? Because that's standard in all commercial airplanes now. So now they're obviously reeling and trying to do some of this forensic work, and they don't have a black box for the helicopter.
Wow.
So I mean, and then the only other real notable thing I saw about the crash, and this is kind of bittersweet, is a lot of people were saying, you can't imagine those final moments. It must have been terrible. If there was any grace in it, it was the fact that it was, it sounds like it was a pretty abrupt crash. Yeah. They had descended 5,000 feet in a matter of very little time, and were going at 185 miles an hour at the time of the crash. It's just crazy. So yeah, that's my 2 cents about that. I mean, let's hope that some positive regulations stem from this, if anything, because we'd hate to see it happen to anybody, not just Kobe Bryant, but to anybody, So, RIP to Kobe, and I love what players are doing about the number change.
Yeah.
Here's one more question for you two gentlemen. Ariza having the connection that he has with him, do you think that's gonna his jersey numbers, because he's 8 right now? Do you think
he definitely could, but I saw Paul George is considering switching back to 24 to honor Kobe, which is completely opposite what everyone else is doing, because no one's asking them to change their numbers from 8 to 26 like what was it Dinwiddie's doing, and Quinn Cook switching 2 because of Gianna, which is just wild. So it's kind of strange to me. I wonder how other players are going to react, or if that's even a confirmed rumor. But yeah, I don't know. If I'm Trevor Ariza,
and that's a different. And the reason I pose that specifically, Christian, is because that's a different relationship dynamic.
Yeah, because they were actual teammates who won a championship together. Yeah.
I think it just depends on how you look at honoring someone, right? Like, I mean, this is a poor comparison, but I chose my number for basketball in middle school because I loved Scottie Pippen. So I wore 33, right? And so there was like an honoring there, right? Of like, Scotty's awesome, I want to be awesome, right? And it's like, I want to play like him. And so I think no matter what you do, I don't think someone could say, oh, that's not honoring or not. And so I think, especially for people close to Kobe, they're going to know what he would have thought better than anybody, what would actually be honoring to him. And so many people have said, like, they can just imagine Kobe saying to them, get back out on the court, play for me, right? And so whether that's with his number or not, I don't know if he would have really cared. He just want them to go all out on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the one thing that I'll call out in the NBA recently. I've appreciated how hard everyone has been playing.
Dude,
but Kobe Bryant definitely would appreciate some more defense.
That's right.
Yeah. But people have been balling out of their minds. I mean, there was 3 straight days of 50-pointers. There was Dame got his triple-double now.
Oladipo first game back. Oladipo first game back.
Send it to OT.
Yeah. Did they win that game?
They did. Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy. On another note, I'm happy to see that Victor Oladipo is back and healthy, and that there's this almost perennial idea that the West is just guard heavy, and there's not an all-star presence necessarily like there is in the East, or so I think Oladipo will kind of feed into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and the East situation, we'll get into this in just a minute, but the East guards must be pretty deep too, because Bradley Beal didn't even make it, and he's averaging 28
I haven't even seen the list yet. So
insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is like one of his better seasons too.
Kyle Lowry is guilty and charged of highway robbery.
It certainly helps that he won a championship and his team's in second place right now.
And that he hasn't just been injured for the whole season.
Yeah,
too.
That's true. That's true.
So before we get into, we'll talk about the All-Star reserves. We'll talk about the recent Blazer games and also what's coming up. But before we do that, Matt, thank you again for joining us.
Totally.
We got a couple questions that we ask all of our guests. So first, who is your favorite non-All-Star Blazer before? You mentioned the Kobe stopper. Is it him?
Yes. No, definitely not. I am not I liked Ruben Patterson-ish, but no, he's not my fave. Gosh, it's so torn, man. So growing up, I think I was like 3 or 4, and my parents had to tell me this, but we'd watch basketball, especially Blazers were in the playoffs every year during that time. And I would call every basketball player that I saw on TV either Michael Jordan, right? They were all Michael Jordan, or they were all Uncle Cliffy.
Uncle Cliffy.
Better known as Uncle Spliffy now. But Uncle Cliffy, I loved Cliff Robinson, dude.
Yes.
And I, like, early days of 2K, when you do like the fantasy draft and stuff like that, make your own team.
No.
I would always try to draft Cliff Robinson last because he was a big that could shoot the three too, and just like stow him on the bench. No, oh gosh, I'm not that dumb. But yeah, I loved Cliff Robinson, and I remember my parents always saying Cliff's got to work on his free throws, and that was like for whatever reason. So I was always at 4 frustrated with him for missing free throws.
Yeah,
love him. But I think in more recent years, I just loved Wes Matthews. Like, Wes is one of my – because we just haven't had dudes that are like a dog, like on defense, and just diving for loose balls. And it was so refreshing to see a guy that could shoot the 3 and loved, like, the 3 glasses, the 3 monocle, like the 3 bow, right? Like, all that stuff. Yeah. But a dude that also wasn't just about offense, but could lock people down and would dive for loose balls, all that kind of stuff. So I think Wes is, and I'm still hoping for a reunion someday. Dude, I think that would be, I was hoping this last season when he was a free agent that maybe we'd snag him, but we'll see. Wes has got to be one of my faves.
Did they ever push him to the 3?
Yeah, he was a 2-3.
That could have been good for us. That could have been very good for us.
I remembered a game I watched where he was the tallest person on the court at the time. It was crazy. It was like Dame, okay. I think it was the year we had Steve Blake. So it was like Dame, probably CJ and Steve Blake, Will Barton. So maybe Will Barton was the tallest. Wesley Matthews and one other guy. I don't remember. I had it written down at the time.
Wes is like 6'5", right?
Yeah. Okay. I've talked about this a couple times. Will Barton is taller than he's listed at. I think he's listed as like 6'5". And then
conspiracy theories.
Yeah. And then Kenneth Fareed is listed at 6'9", and I saw them standing next to each other in person, and I was like, no, Will Barton is as tall as Kenneth Fareed. Yeah.
Height gate.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the Manimal has exaggerated his height statistics slightly as well.
He's probably like 6'6", dude.
Yeah.
He is not very big.
It's probably like Will Barton is like, I still want to be considered a shooting guard or something. So like,
he's long too.
Yeah, he is. Totally. So, favorite Blazers game you ever attended?
Oh, man, this one, at first I was like, that's kind of tough. And then it got really easy, really fast. So it was actually also the worst Blazer game I've ever been to.
Oh.
So Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs. What is that, game 3? Game 4?
I have no clue.
We go down 24. It's this game. Do you remember this? A couple years, like 5 years ago, 6 years?
God.
No, it's more like 8 years ago now.
Yes.
Yeah. We go down 24. I'm there with my buddy James, and we're sitting at halftime. Like, why? I mean, we spent $50 like on playoff tickets, which isn't that bad now. Like, it's pretty good. But then, single dude, right? Like working 5 part-time jobs, $50 was a lot of money. And so I was like, well, that was the worst $50 I've ever spent. And then when they come back from down, and it may have even been more. I know it was 24. Yeah. When they come back, that's the B. Roy game too, where he's coming off the bench at that point, and I'll never forget his 4-point play. And then Wes like dives on the ground for a loose ball, gets a steal, and we come back and beat them. Dude. I hugged so many strangers. Like in the Moda Center, like, because we were just going crazy. We did the chant, "Let's go Blazers." We parked over at Lloyd Center. We did it all the way from the Moda Center, all the way back to Lloyd Center. Dude. When you get on dude, it was nuts. People on their cars would do like, people would yell, "Let's go Blazers," and then people would be honking, dun 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 dun, and you could still hear it on the freeway. And like cars were pulling over and like, "Did we win?" And we're like cheering that. It was just nuts. It was so fun. Best comeback I've ever seen, and that I got to be there was awesome. Dude.
Was that a part of Dallas's championship run by any chance?
It was. Yeah. So I mean, we did lose to the champs that year too. So so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
that was
for
a good
sharing.
one.
All right. So, what do we want to get into? The Dame's huge week or the All-Star reserves?
I feel like the All-Star reserves are more timely.
All right. Let's get to the All-Star reserves. So, Austin, I lost you on my phone, so I'll call you again. But the NBA All-Star reserves were announced, and they are in the Eastern Conference: Ben Simmons, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, and Domantas Sabonis. And just a reminder, NBA, you need to add more. Having 12 and not 13 or 15 is just ridiculous. Now to the Western Conference. We have Damian Lillard. I wonder where he plays for. Donovan Mitchell, Nikola Jokic, Rudy Gobert, Brandon Ingram, Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook. So these are your NBA All-Stars. That adds to the starters, of course, of in the East, Kemba Walker, Trae Young, Giannis, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid. In the West, James Harden, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis. So, couple of big snubs in there. One, like I said earlier, Bradley Beal is averaging over 28 points a game, and he did not make the All-Star team. Pretty wild, especially in the East. You'd think someone averaging 28 points a game, man. I looked back because I remember back in the day when Damian was right around 20 points his first couple years in the league. I looked in the 2012 season. There were only 9 players that averaged 20 points or more. Dame was 19 something that year. This year, there are currently 27 players averaging 20 points or more. So 3 times as much as just, nuts, 7-8 years ago. Crazy. So other snubs, Devin Booker, he's averaging, I think, 27 points a game. So just one less. I saw that it was the first year since like 1984 that anyone averaging 27 or less, 27 or more did not make the All-Star team.
And I think CJ quoted that tweet, I believe, from SportsCenter. And it was Devin. Yeah, it reads, Devin Booker has not been selected to the All-Star game. The only other players in NBA history to average 27 points per game and 6 assists per game on 50% shooting in a season are LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Steph Curry, and Oscar Robinson.
Jeez.
Dude, crazy. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. There's so many good players right now. And with the offense inflated like it is, it's really tough to single out one person from another. Yeah. And it's nice to see like Bam Adebayo get in there. And you know, of course, Rudy Gobert for defense for both of them. So that's encouraging to see. It's also just crazy how much scoring there is in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
So another snub, Paul George didn't make the All-Star team.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. I don't know how many games he's played, but I'm sure that's
crazy because with the fan voting, he was way up above Dame and all, you know. I wonder if that's load management being taken into account.
I think he was listed as a forward, right? Because as far as fan voting, Dame was...
Yes.
Yeah. Dame
but I just mean like totals-wise. I mean, he was a couple thousand ahead of Dame.
Yeah. I mean... I don't think Dame. It's pretty crazy to me how little Dame gets. Like he was still third as far as guards go. Yeah. But like these other guys are like way up in the millions, and Dame's like 200, 300,000. I don't know what the final tally was. It's like 600,000-700,000. But it's just crazy. Like once you get that international vote, it just goes crazy. And once you get like the LA vote, it blows up. It's whatever team LeBron's on that helps too.
Yeah,
man.
So Anthony Davis and Jokic. Who was the other big man that was selected for the West?
Gobert.
Really?
Yep.
I'll have to look up his stat line, his averages, because I was just about to say. Yep, you got it,
dude. So okay, in that stretch of 3 games where people got 50 3 days in a row. What's his name? Eric Gordon from the Rockets got 50 points, and there was one play where. It showed a video, and he's barreling to the basket, and he runs into Joe Ingles, who flops ridiculously, and then he's like turning and doing a fake, and then coming back up to the basket, and when he does the fake, his arm goes out a tiny bit, and Rudy Gobert just goes straight to the ground. He's like covering his head. Like, it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
That was terrible.
What a joke. What the heck?
That was terrible, though.
And
I was actually...
You got to work on that.
And I was really even before we started talking about Rudy Gobert, I was going to say, how many of these guys are really selected for their defensive prowess? It's,
Right.
and I guess if there is one, it'd be Rudy Gobert.
Yeah. What big man would you put in there instead of him?
Instead of him? Well, it's tough now because there's like almost no traditional fours in the league anymore.
Do you think Whiteside gets in on it over him?
I mean, Whiteside's was leading the league in blocks.
He still is, yeah. I mean, with 5 last night, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I don't necessarily have like a backup. I'm kind of going through the list right now, but one thing I did notice is, and this is not answering your question, but Clint Capella is not the Hollywood star he used to be.
No, yeah.
I was watching him last. Yeah, I was watching him last. Do you remember it was like Capella Gate when he was like trying to get his contract and everyone was like, it was like astronomical amounts. But I was like, wow, it's crazy. Centers are just one of those positions where unless you're like a Nikola Jokic or an Anthony Davis and you're able to kind of morph your game, it's like, you could have a good year and a bad year. It's almost like a defensive back in the NFL, Right. Like you got 2-3 good years of pure athleticism, and then unless you're a Richard Sherman, then, So I honestly can't answer your question. I think if we're gonna have to be forced to fit into role appointees, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So as far as stats, Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gobert have super similar stats. Here's Gobert: 15.7 points a game, 14.6 rebounds a game, 2 blocks. Whiteside is 15.6, 0.1 point off in points, 14 rebounds. 0.6 less rebounds per game, and 1.1 more blocks per game. They have super similar stats, really similar percentages too. Hassan actually has a better free throw percentage than him, which is crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so awful in Miami,
dude.
Seriously. It's a little bit different though. Is the win percentages.
Totally. And that's the thing with All-Stars. They take that in. That's Bradley Beal right there. I think is that they take in like your effectiveness of winning then with your stats, which I don't know if that's fair or not. I mean, but you can get a guy that you put on a scrub team, right, and then inflated stats. But we've seen that's not Brad Beal in the past. He's always been a good player.
Definitely.
Plays a winning brand of basketball.
Yeah.
That's what's fascinating to me is Trae Young is playing great, but his team is also horrendous.
Right.
So it's like he's an all-star starter, and really his stats aren't all that different from Bradley Beal, except he's second in the league in assists. Do you guys know who's first in the league in assists?
First in the league in assists. Is it Doncic?
It is not Doncic. He's up there.
Is it LeBron?
He's fourth. It is LeBron.
Oh, man.
10.7. Only guy averaging over 10 assists a game.
Small forward.
Dude.
Wow.
Wild. Yeah, I got a list here because it was kind of blowing my mind. So Dame is 6th. He's behind Ben Simmons, which, by the way, Ben Simmons and Kyle Lowry, those are the two that it's like you could definitely put Bradley Beal instead of one of them.
Yeah.
So Ben Simmons is 5th. Lillard's 6th with 7.8. Guess who's 7th? He's leading his team in scoring. Who do you think it is?
Dame?
Not Dame. Dame's 6th.
Leading his team in scoring.
I'm just gonna save us all time because no one's gonna guess it. Devontae Graham on the Hornets.
What?
He is
fantastic.
He's averaging 18 points a game and 7.6 assists and 3.6 rebounds. But like, dude, out of nowhere, this guy's balling.
He came out of nowhere.
Crazy.
Him and Nunn this year are the two like. Where did these guys come from, and how can they ball so well?
Totally. Yeah. And the Heat just have so many of those guys. You mentioned Nunn. It's like they've had so many guys this season where I'm just like, what? Like, when is Bam Adebayo in the MVP conversation?
Yeah.
What? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. It's been wild.
Where did I'm trying to think here. Not Nunn, but Devontae Graham. Where did he come from?
Dude, I don't know.
I have no clue.
just
I know it's his second year in the league. He may have been on them the year previous too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it taking a second to reflect as Christian does some
went to Kansas
here? He went to Kansas?
Yes.
No, well then
that was
never
my
mind.
Research. Real quick.
Speaking of Kansas, I want to make this point very quickly before I forget about this. Ben McLemore. I watched ESPN incessantly when he was coming out of college, and he was one of the guys coming out of the draft, and I was really sad to see him do so poorly in Sacramento. I'm actually very happy for him in Houston. He's done fantastic. He was a sharpshooter last night, and that's one thing that
changed in his game because he was just all like slasher.
Yes.
He could not shoot for his life in Sacramento.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he I don't know. He barreled to the hoop. But did you see last night with Ariza? I haven't watched the game, so I don't even know the context. I'm like, have they been battling all night? But like the ball, okay, it was a made shot, right? I don't even remember. But anyway, the ball is heading out of bounds. Ariza is going to pick it up, and Ben McLemore is going to pick it up. And Ariza is like boxing him out to pick up this ball that's already way out of bounds, and then he like grabs it from him, and then he like throws it on the ground, and then he gets a delay of game warning. And it's like, what is going on, Ariza? Who hurt you? Like, oh my gosh.
I love it. I love it though. That's the first thing I did is I quoted that video and I said I love it. You know, that's Matt had meant exactly. And I'm trying to remember. We had a guy in recent years that I'm struggling to recollect. Kind of. Well, no, I'm sorry. It was Zach Collins. That's who I quoted and added in the tweet. And he's been out this season. So, and it's one thing that really came to mind when you had mentioned needing that kind of dog mentality on the team was how many guys we have that have the physical capability to be that guy, but they're just not. And that's not like a knock. That's just who they are as a player. Nas is that guy. Like he can do that, but you can tell he's a rookie. You know, he's gonna get into it. He'll get into it, but he just those second effort plays. And there's actually another play last night, Christian, that I would recommend that you locate. It's Nas catches a kind of a dish out pass on the three, and rather than kind of taking that quick spot up in the corner, he pumped, jabbed, and then he went to the basket, and I was like, oh, this is bad. There's like 2 or 3 people down there. Just elevates and just packs it. I was like, oh, so okay, good. Like, let's go. Like,
I've been advocating for more Nas all season. This guy is amazing. Okay, like you were saying, he's a rookie. He's got to play into it. Like, he's already impressed. Like, every game I've watched, I'm like, this guy is so ready. It's crazy how much he struggled last year in college because he just impresses me so much, especially on defense. And like every once in a while, he'll have a blunder on defense. But guess what? Everyone else on the team is too. Yeah. But this guy at least like plays hard all the time, plays with hustle. So I tweeted maybe a week or 2 ago. I was like, I don't know which would be worse, that Terry Stotts doesn't realize that Nassir Little is better than Mario Hezonja, or that Nassir Little actually has some hidden attitude problem that we don't know about as fans. Because it's like, why is Hezonja getting minutes over this guy? He can actually play good defense, and he's got energy.
And it looks like that's kind of winding down, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so.
I mean, he sat on the bench the whole night last night.
He didn't get any time, I don't think. I think Hezonja was starting to get some time again, especially while we were losing, as like sometimes people try to pump up how somebody looks going into the trade deadline, right? And be like, look, this guy's good. But Hezonja comes out 4 turnovers. Well, never mind. Let's better that he doesn't go out there to show what he actually is.
Yeah. Just remember when he stopped LeBron last year.
Remember when he dunked on Giannis.
Yes, exactly. What a year it was in New York.
They just start showing those clips.
Is Steve Blake still on the coaching staff?
For the Blazers?
Uh-huh.
Not for Blazers. No. He's somewhere else.
I can't remember where. I was going to say maybe Hezonja needs to spend some time with him, but I guess not.
Yeah,
I feel like he was on the Lakers coaching staff a couple of years ago because he had played with them a couple times.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure. I know I saw him on the bench recently, but I can't remember with what team.
I'm not sure.
For some reason, I thought it was the Suns, but I don't know if that's right.
I think you are right, Matt. I think you are. But
because isn't that Monty Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, he might be with Monty.
Let me see.
Who I really like, by the way. I always do a little bit about how the general temperature here in Phoenix is. Christian is nodding. It looks like we got a confirmation that
Suns.
Yeah. Well, and what I was going to say is that the Suns, Monty Williams has turned it around, and people are excited. People are excited down here, and
that's fun, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, Devin Booker. I think DeAndre Ayton. Who went after DeAndre Ayton?
Marvin Bagley.
Pretty good too.
Yeah,
but he's just been injury prone.
Luka Doncic. Can you imagine Luka and Devin Booker and Zion?
Because DeAndre Ayton's under.
Last year I was talking about Zion to the Suns all season.
He's underperforming off the court and on the court. And yeah, and I mean, and underperforming for him is relative to where he was projected to be, right? You know.
Yeah,
so I think a lot of players would be happy to average whatever he's got right now, but yeah.
Now, I want to switch gears to how the Blazers have been doing lately. We talked a little bit about Ariza and McLemore. I don't know why our call keeps dropping, Austin, but we'll just keep it going. Ariza has been amazing for this team so far. I don't know what flipped,
waffle.
I flipped that statement. I'm waffling, trying to figure things. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but like Kent Bazemore is this 3-and-D guy. You know, Kent Bazemore, you're great. Thanks for playing for the team. You're awesome. Great chase down blocks.
He actually had a pretty good game for them the other night too. I saw he had 15 points, like 3 or 5 from 3.
Yeah, but somehow Ariza is just the perfect fit for this Blazer team right now. So hopefully it continues. But man, he has been playing great, hitting really good shots. Yeah. Like after not playing all that much for the Kings. Didn't work out with him coming off the bench over there, but he's just been exactly what the Blazers needed. So so great. But let's just bounce back to the last few games. Damian Lillard, we talked about his career high last episode, right? Now I'm mixing it up. Do you remember, Austin?
Career high for
Damian Lillard, 61 points. Was that in our last episode?
Yes, that's his career high.
I mean, did we already talk about it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anyway, this last week he got Western Conference Player of the Week. What the heck? He's on a tear. He was averaging 52 points per game over that week, and like I don't know what it was, like 9 assists, 7 rebounds. Yeah. And then he got his first triple double last night. He's his average for the season has already bumped up to 29 after these like 4 or 5 amazing games. He's last night against the Rockets, he hit 2 logo shots, like literally like a foot was on the 50 logo. Man, just like absolutely ridiculous. At the start of the season, he was having games already where he was like just hitting shots like nobody's business. It's like, why are you not just shooting it every time? Because like his percentage from 3 is like always over 50% in these games. And then I'm just like, what if we just shot it there every time? What if we just see what happens until you drop to 40% and then you do something else? I don't know.
I think that Damian Lillard deserved to be an all-star before this, but this kind of was the stamp on it. Whereas, yes, and I'm frustrated because Russell Westbrook, on the other hand, I don't know if he necessarily deserved it beforehand. But this kind of recent thing just kind of propelled him into it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm seriously just trying to be as objective as possible, even though we're talking about Russell Westbrook as Blazers fans. But I think that Dame was doing that before, and that just moved it into the national spotlight. Whereas Russ was already in the national spotlight, and they're like, oh well, hey, now he's doing well.
Yeah. Totally. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I was thinking about this today, how if we had this Damian Lillard in the series against the Pelicans, we would have won. Because in that series where we got swept, correct? Yeah. Yep. Where the thing he's been doing better than I've ever seen him is splitting the double team.
Dude, so well.
And passing out of the double team at the right time and people actually knocking down shots.
Yes.
And he got killed in that series. Him and CJ both, right? Like that destroyed our chances of winning. And I feel like we had that Dame back then. I mean, what if scenario, but I think we win that series because we played them tough still. Several of those games, and it looked like we should have gotten the win a couple times.
It wasn't like the series against Golden State a year or two ago where it was just like, okay, this was going to be,
it's over.
Exactly.
And then last year against the Thunder, going into the playoff series, the Blazers were 0-4 against the Thunder in the regular season, I'm pretty sure. And I was saying, like, throughout the last couple of months of the season, I'm like, this is the last team I want to see in the playoffs. I might even take the Warriors over them. Once Nurk went down, I was like, okay, maybe not. But it was like, man, they have long defenders. They got more athletic players. Like they had, Russ, Paul George, Roberson was like on the fence about coming back from injury, all that. But I was like, man, they actually have big guards who can defend, unlike most of these other teams in the West.
Right.
So I was really concerned. And then Dame just showed up. And in that game 5, when he had 50, like, okay, if you haven't watched that game 5 by now, like, find a way to rewatch that game, because Dame was the only guy who could do anything for the first quarter, most of the first half, and then at the end of the game. It was
carried.
like, I've never seen a performance as dominant as that. It was insane. So he, even last year, like that version of him against the Pelicans, that would have won it for him for sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
Which is so
highs.
awesome to see, like, your superstar still developing and getting better every single year. Because that's like Kobe, back to that, right? Like he never like treated the game like he had arrived. There was always something he was working on, right? And Dame, I think, has a similar mentality. And people harp on him, right, for the rapping and for some of his other endeavors, but he shows every year that he's doing things that he didn't have in his game before, or perfecting things that were in his game before. And that just silences, I think, the critics that say, hey, you should focus on basketball. Well, the dude is killing it this year. So hopefully nobody says anything like that in the offseason.
Totally.
I feel like 2 or 3 years ago it was his man defense, and that was resolved. And then last year it was getting not just distribution, but upping the level of surrounding players within the scheme, within the offense. And then now, as you said, Matt, it's the double team and operating out of that double team, which is kind of ironic that we're playing James Harden and double teaming him and seem to be his kryptonite. And it's like, oh, well, this is kind of what Dame's facing like almost every night, and he seems to be doing okay. Like,
totally, man.
I would love a Blazers Rockets series.
Oh,
man.
that would be awesome.
That would be so good.
Yeah.
Two guys that Dame has sent away. James Harden in the Rockets with the 0.9 second shot, and then
Russ.
Bye-bye. Oh man, crazy. That would be so wild. Oh, Blazers need to get up there in playoff seeding. So yeah, Blazers against the Pacers. Dame had 50 points that game. Any other specific notes on that one? That was the night that Kobe passed away, so that was a tough game.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I had a couple that night, so I don't even remember that game that well. That was a confusing day, and I needed to just. I wasn't even actively watching that game. I was watching it, but I wasn't watching it. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like what does this even matter? Does this even matter right now? But
that one, I think, felt like, out of our starting 5, I can't remember what the bench did. Maybe the bench had like around 20, 25 points, but our starting 5, it felt like such like a full team win, even though Dame went off. Like, for CJ still to have 28, Melo 14 and 8, and Melo's been doing better on the boards recently too, which is huge. And then Hassan 21 and 14. I just was like, man, for Dame to like go off. And then yet you still look at the box score, and there's some other people that really contributed. That's a good sign for our team chemistry, for even though it came naturally to him and he didn't have to force it, because other people were doing things and they couldn't double team him as much because CJ was still shooting lights out. And Gary Trent has been sneaky good recently. Not like numbers that make you like get crazy, but still he's hitting the 3. I saw in last night's game too, he's passing at the right times too, and actually getting in the lane more and then dishing back out. And we need someone from the bench that's confident on offense.
It's not a sexy game, right?
No,
like he doesn't have a sexy game at all. Like but it's there, it shows up, it's punctual, and it works.
Yeah, totally.
I remember like a month or two ago, I saw someone say, like, does anyone somehow have it compiled who has the amount of passes everyone has done in the NBA? Because I'm sure Gary Trent would be dead last. And he's developing things. He's playing good on defense. He's hitting the 3 every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's just great to have Ariza on the team, someone who can hit the 3 consistently, because Dame has, I saw back in that 76ers game where Korkmaz hit the last second shot.
That was terrible.
When Dame was going up for it, and I was like, oh my gosh, Dame's going to make it happen. And then in the paint, he kicks it out to Simons. Yeah. And Simons hits the shot, and I almost cried. And then we lost the game, and it was horrendous. That might be one of those.
At that one?
Yeah, that was 70s night.
That was terrible, man.
Rough. So yeah, that was roller coaster of emotions. But the fact that like Dame has like gotten the faith in his teammates when they, in a lot of ways, don't deserve it.
No.
They've let him down a lot of times in those situations. But now that you have Ariza, who can hopefully hit that shot, and you have CJ McCollum, who should be able to hit that shot, and Simons has shown that he can do it at times. It's just pretty exciting. So the next game after that was the Rockets game. Obviously, we've talked about that. Coming up, the Lakers Clippers game was canceled on Tuesday, and
jeez.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna bunch up a whole bunch of things. So trade deadline is coming up. I still think we should trade Hassan Whiteside. There's exactly one scenario where trading Hassan Whiteside, not trading Hassan Whiteside is somewhat okay. And that is if the Blazers win the championship, yes, I'm all on board with do not trade Hassan Whiteside if it means you get a championship.
Yeah.
There's no way to know that.
Yeah.
If the Blazers somehow go 3-0 this week and then they don't trade Whiteside, I'll be like, okay, that's okay. Like that's reasonable. You beat 3 really good teams. But here's the thing. Blazers-Lakers, first game the Lakers have played in Staples Center since Kobe passed away. Everyone is going to have a Mamba mentality for that game, and LeBron is going to do everything he can to win it. And we know how much LeBron can show up. We've seen it in the finals many times, and we do not we have Ariza hopefully who can guard him better than we would have, but it's gonna be a tough game, and the Lakers.
I don't have any faith. I don't have any faith.
Exactly,
I think
and I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
right. Lakers need a win. I'm not saying that the Blazers should give it up, but that's not a game that, especially on a back-to-back. Win the Jazz game. All right, play hard. Don't keep Dame out longer than he should. Don't make him try harder. Injuries are still a very real thing. But play hard. If Dame can take over and get 40-50, that's awesome. But don't go too hard. I don't know. But then the Jazz and Nuggets coming up after that. Those are the 3 games before the trade deadline. And even if you beat the Jazz and the Nuggets, you still got to trade Hassan because he's not going to hit. Him and Nurk are both starters. We've talked about this. There's no way it's going to work out. All we're going to do is lose all that contract next season. Like I predicted, the NBA salary cap went down from what was expected. It's still higher than it is this year. But the Blazers aren't going to have cap space. They now have Ariza on the books for next year, so that's pretty much taken up that $10 million that they would have had. So you got to trade Hassan, have something to work with next year, even if it's not that good of a player. Like at least you have a contract you can trade next year if you need to. It gives you more flexibility.
A playable veteran.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Because the championship chances this year are extremely slim.
Yeah, totally. The one thing I'd say about the Lakers game tomorrow is, and not that the Blazers take advantage of this by any means, but it's going to be a super emotional night. Mm-hmm. And I think the only chance we have at winning is if it's too much of an emotional experience for the Lakers, right? Like you want to play out of emotion in the sense of like let the emotion come to you in the game, but you can be pretty reckless in the midst of emotions too. Like, and so if any guy is trying to prove anything or yes, they want to win for Kobe, right? And for Laker Nation, they need that win, but also emotions can make you do things that are uncharacteristic as well, where the Blazers are not in that same spot. And we have been playing good basketball and we've been more disciplined recently too. So, I mean, my guess is LeBron doesn't let a team play out of emotion as much, but yet that's one of his really good friends too. And even seeing for Melo, like it's been tough for him, recently, for some of the other guys as well. Like it's just that we're closer with Kobe. Like that's just tougher because it's real life, right? Yeah. Like for me, if I lost somebody and had to go to work the next day, I'm not going to fully be there, right? That's just the reality of being human. And so I only say that as like that's the chance I give us tomorrow in that game, but not saying like we take advantage of that, because no, like that's real stuff, and losing a friend is way more important than a win or anything like that. I'm just hoping for a really good game and that Kobe is just honored in some really cool ways, and it's a battle back and forth, and we see the Blazers, if they do lose in a fight, right? Where it's back and forth and show we belong here even though we lost.
Absolutely. And there's connections on both sides. It's not like it's Kobe's team versus the Blazers. It's, Carmelo was friends with him. Ariza won a championship with him. Dame's a guy that Kobe was believed in from the start of his career. So these are guys that had connections to Kobe. They want to, prove themselves and really honor him well. So I'm excited to watch that game regardless. It's going to be one to watch. If you weren't already planning on it, definitely watch that game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Well, I hate to cut it short. Was there any last minute things that we wanted to discuss here, Christian?
I'm good. Anything on your mind?
I only keep Hassan if Nurk isn't looking like he's coming back soon. That's the other thing. With what you were saying, Christian, because we're not going to get another center that is going to produce, and I don't want Caleb Swanigan starting.
But is there any reason to do that? Because if you're not getting Nurk, you probably have no chance of making the championship.
Well, it depends on, is Nurk coming? Not that Nurk's not coming back, but when is Nurk coming back? Right? Say Nurk's not coming back at the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. But he comes back in March or something like that, Do you keep Hassan to sustain that and still be able to split minutes 20-20 between those two guys going forward?
So, because to me, it only makes sense if a championship is the result. If it's making the playoffs, to me, it's just go for it next season. That's the way I feel about it, because championship is the ceiling. So, I don't know.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I hate to be the one to wrap this up, but Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure catching back up. And as always, everybody go ahead and follow us, Peeps and Plaid, on Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your flavor is. And thank you to our local artists for providing the tunes. I think Anthony Machoni might have some of ours for this episode. And as always, if you have a friend or family that produces some music or some artwork, we are open to some requests. Thanks, guys.
Peace out.